Welcome to the third lecture in Module 2. In this lecture, we're going to build a more substantial web application. We're going to build a blog. So let's talk a little bit about what we want to do in building a blog. First of all, a blog is a contraction for the term weblog. And these became very popular about 10 years ago because this was the first application to appear on the web that allowed non-technical users to be able to interact and create and publish content on the web. Here's some of the specifications. We want to create a blog administrator and we want to have blog users. And the blog administrator should be able to enter new postings, and typically these appear in reverse chronological order. In other words, the most recent post appears first. Users should be able to visit this site and they should be able to enter their own comments about particular postings. In other words, comments should be tied to particular postings. Now, the blog administrator should be able to edit their own postings and also to remove comments if they don't feel they're appropriate. However, you don't want users to be able to edit other users' comments, and you don't want users to be able to edit the posts as well. Now, I'm going to talk you through how to create this, and then I'm going to show you as well. So the first thing you need to do, as we've already seen, is to create the Rails application. In other words, Rails new blog. After that, we're going to do something different. We're going to run a couple of code generators. And these are the two lines we're going to use to create the posts as well as the comments. The first line, Rails generates scaffold post, title : string, there's a / there, and that's only because this would not fit on one line. And so this / is what you use in a Unix terminal in order to go to the next line, and then you hit return and that code will be executed. After you execute these two lines of code, you need to run rake db migrate in order to create your database schema and your database. After that, I'd like you to type rake routes, and I'll show you again how to do this directly on my own machine. And you'll see all of the various URLs that are connected to your web application. And then when you run Rails server and point your browser to localhost 3000, you'll see the running application. In order to create our blog application, let's open up a terminal window and type Rails new blog. When we issue this command, as we've seen before, it creates a new Rails app and then runs the bundler in order to include all of the necessary gems. Next, let's inspect the Rails application that we just created. In order to do this, I'm going to open it in my text editor. Let's take a look at the app subdirectory. Here we see the model, view, and controller subdirectories that we've already discussed. And if we look under them, we see that there's one folder called concerns that was automatically created for us. Under views, there's a folder called layouts that was automatically created for us. And under controllers, there's an applications controller and also a concerns folder. If we take a look at DB directory, we see that there's a seed file associated with seeding databases. It's empty at the moment. As we take a look, you can take a look and see that it has some comments in it, and that's it. And here is our gem file. This is a listing of all of the gems that are going to be used in this application. When bundle install was run, it's reading this gem file. Next, take a look under the test subdirectory. There are a number of folders under this test directory. For example, one for controllers, fixtures. And if we look under each of these, there's nothing there at the moment. They're all empty. Let's cd into the application directory. And in order to create the posts and comments, we're going to run a Rails generator command. And in this case, the first one we're going to run is to create the post. And so here is the Rails command. Generate is a script, and we're specifying that we want to create a scaffold. And a scaffold are all of the pieces associated with a model, view, and controller. And we're going to call that scaffold post. And it's going to have two parts. It's going to have a title and a body. And the title is of type string, and the body is of type text. And text in databases is just allows you to have more characters than a string field. So let's hit return, and we'll see that Rails will create a number of directories. And now let's run a similar generator to create the comments. And so again, it's Rails generate scaffold comment. In this case, we are providing a post ID that's an integer. And this is how we're going to link our comments to particular posts. And then the body of the comment is just a text field. So let's run this generator as well. And again, it creates a number of directories. In order to see what was created, let's again open up this application in our editor. And if we look under the app directory, under models, we now see that there's a comment model and a post model. And under the controllers, there's now a comments controller and a post controller. And under the views, we now have views for comments and posts. In addition, if we look under the test directory, we'll see that there are now tests created for comments controller and post controller, along with a number of other tests that we'll discuss in more detail later. Now, in order to create a database schema for our application, along with a database that contains the tables for posts and comments, we need to run the command rake db:/migrate. And you'll see here that it creates tables for both posts and comments. Furthermore, if we return to our text editor and look under the db directory, we see that there's now a schema.rb file, and this is Ruby code. This is the code for creating the posts, and this is the code for creating the comments in our schema. And there's also a file called development.sqlite3. This is the actual database that was created by reading this schema file. Returning to our terminal window, if we type rake routes, you'll see all of the various URLs that are currently associated with this application. And so in just a moment, I'll use this route. In order to see this working, let's go ahead and start the server. Now that the web server is running, let's open up a browser and point it to localhost :3000. And again, here we see the application welcome screen that we saw previously, but now we're going to try this URL called posts index that we saw on the previous page. And we'll see that there's a listing for posts, but that it's empty. But there's a link here that allows us to create a new post. And so let's call this my first post. And I'll create a post that says life is great. And now we can create this post, and this actually gets stored in the database. We can do the same thing for comments. If I replace this route or this URL with comments, we can create a new comment. And we're going to link this comment to the first post, and I happen to know that it has an ID of 1. And let's put here for the body a great post, and let's go ahead and create this. And now we have both a post and a comment. Finally, to show that that post and comment were actually stored in the database, let's open the SQLite database browser and direct it to our blog db subdirectory and open development.sqlite3. And if we look at the database structure, we see that there's the posts, there's the comment, and we see the various rows associated with those two tables. And if we browse data and look at posts, we see the post that I created as well as the comment that was created. So now that you've created this blog application, I'd like you to perform some CRUD operations on it. What are CRUD operations? I'd like you to be able to create, read, update, and destroy various posts and comments. So please experiment with the application now, trying to do those things. This completes the third lecture in Module 2.